Stupid. Good morning. Welcome to this edition of the Weekend Wrap Up here on Shelbyville Now. It's August 24th, 2024. Josh, Horse Show is cranked up, buddy.
Horse Show is cranked up. We are here with Horse Show Donuts. I've got a little Southern Cup. It's going to be a good Saturday.
What's special about Southern Cup?
This is the 8th birthday of Southern Cup.
Okay.
So if you go by there today, I think you get a free brownie as well as
wish them a happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Southern Cup. And they keep us going on Saturday mornings, and we definitely appreciate them. So.
Well, Josh, it looks like we've got a lot to talk about this morning, as usual.
As usual, we're probably going to go long.
Probably.
So,
all right.
Alert the affiliates. This could be a long
okay.
one. I don't know.
All right. Well, before we dive in, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance here at Shelbyville.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Welcome back to the Weekend Wrap Up. Josh, I know we've got a lot of things to talk about. You've been digging and diving into things.
It's been a full week as usual, and normally we would start off with our city meetings, but if we did that, we'd ignore the elephant in the room. So, rather than avoid the issue, we're going to jump straight into the elephant, and then we'll go into the city meeting.
Okay.
So, I know we got donkey, but there's also an elephant.
An elephant, okay.
Thursday afternoon, I put a little post on the Facebooks. And I'm going to read it real quick, and then we're going to go into how I came about the post, why, and then some of the response we got. And then we'll respond to the response. Post said, and this is, I'll just read it straight through, a better Bedford ? With 5 bullet points. 16 donors have given approximately $90,000 to influence our local election. None of those donors live in Shelbyville city limits. 5 donors do not live in Bedford County, $40,000 donated. 5 donors have development projects before local government currently, and 70% of their expenditures so far have gone to Nashville political consultants. And that was it. 5 bullet points. I mean, expected a couple responses like normal. Didn't expect a whole lot, and boy, did we step in a hornet's nest.
Well, Josh, before you step into the hornet's nest again, I want to explain to everybody what a PAC is, and a Better Bedford is a PAC, okay?
It is a PAC. We didn't put that in the post.
Right.
Yeah, go into that, and then I'll go into
political action committee. And what political action committees do is they raise money, and they support political causes or political candidates. Okay, so they donate to candidates, and they support these candidates and try to get them elected. So your first statement, $90,000 to influence our local election. That's done by a lot of different people. If you have a PAC, if you're donating to a cause or to an individual, then you are trying to affect the local election. You're trying to have influence on it. You're trying to support, which is have influence over. So your first statement is not a call out of something bad. It's just stating what a PAC does.
By definition, what a PAC is.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
what it is. There's all kinds of PACs,
you could look at that. If you don't understand what a PAC is, then you go, oh, that's terrible. No, it's what a PAC does.
It's what they do.
All right,
yeah, it's what they do.
So go ahead, Josh.
So how I came to this little post, which is very short, was actually I couldn't sleep Monday night. And I was thinking of an article I've been working through in my head, an opinion piece on this particular PAC, because as you just said, they're here. They've got a particular cause they're going to push for. We feel like probably in the upcoming election, and their cause they say is a better Bedford. So my thinking in my head was, this is their definition of a better Bedford. Is what they think is a better Bedford the same as what I think is a better Bedford? I don't know, because they haven't put a lot of information out there. So the first step to me when I do any kind of articles, I like to dive in and go deep. So I went through all their financials and was just building a spreadsheet that I was just going to use as background for this article that I'm still probably planning on working on. But as a result of the information that came out on the spreadsheet, it surprised me, because I expected to go into it, and what I expected to be writing as sentences in this article was, hey, only 25% of them live in the city. Hey, a few of them live in the city, a few in the county, a few out. And honestly, I was shocked that nobody on the list lived in the city. So I expected, just a couple of people to live in the city. Now, we're not going to jump all the way into the responses yet. One of the questions that's been raised, and just to clarify how I came up with lives in the city or not in the city, all words can be, possibly twisted. Not everybody that gave money to this PAC is a person. Some of these are corporations, LLCs, other PACs. So the determining factor I used was I looked at that line item and said, this company, who is the owner or the primary chief executive of this company, this PAC, who runs this PAC. And there were several of those. And I looked at that individual, because your building didn't write a check to this PAC. I mean, there's a person that had to make that decision. So I tried to determine as best I could who the person was that likely made the decision to write the check. And then I looked, and how I came up with whether or not anybody lived in the city or county. I actually pulled voting records for the whole county.
Okay.
And went through the voting records and said, does this person vote in Bedford County or not? And if they did, obviously, if you vote here, you live here, or I hope so. That's the way the law is written.
Right.
So going down the list, again, 16 donors, some people, some companies, some actually other PACs. None of the primary person involved in either that company or that other PAC lived in the city of Shelbyville. And then other than that, 5 of the 16 didn't even live in Bedford County. They lived in surrounding counties. So that was the information. It surprised me. It wasn't an indictment on any of these people. We very carefully took out all identifying information. There's not an address. There's not a person's name in there. It was just a statement on the fact that you've got a group and they've raised money. And we feel like, and we don't know yet, but we're fairly certain that, you didn't put that money in there just to have it sit there and draw interest. They're probably planning on making a move on one of the elections, either the city or the county. And I was just surprised that nobody lived in the city.
Well, I'll say this, just looking at some of the candidates that I know have already been, that have made announcements in social media.
Right.
Just some of the wording is scripted right out of the Better Bedford PAC. It's when you start looking at it, some of the things that they say is some of the things that the candidates have said. So, So I would think that these candidates are being backed by the PAC and helped by the PAC.
Possibly, but we won't know, like, if the PAC has given a donation to a candidate or if a candidate has accepted money
until
from
they do it.
Until there's financial disclosures. I believe they're due October 10th. And somebody asked me in one of the comments, hey, I'm running. Are you going to post yours? Well, I'm going to post mine as early as I can. You can't even figure out the math until at least October 1st because the quarter ended the day before. So probably by the 2nd, I'll try to put mine out early because part of what we're pushing for is transparency. So a couple responses we got. I'm just going to read at least one of these verbatim. It says, if Shelbyville Now wants to be a responsible and honest media outlet for the citizens of Shelbyville, Bedford, it should not allow candidates such as Joshua Blevins running for Ward 5, Shelbyville City Council, administrative capabilities to publish or post. Having control over a media outlet can lead to conflicts of interest as it allows the candidate to shape public narratives, limit criticism, and influence voter perception. Couple points on that. we're not hiding that I'm running for office, so we've been pretty obvious on that. Just because I'm running for office, I don't feel like I'm going to pull back on our reporting and what we're doing, because I don't see another outlet in the city that's currently covering what we're covering. We're going to cover some things later today that didn't run in either newspaper. I didn't hear about it on the radio. And the only way I knew it happened is I went to the meeting. So,
yeah. And one thing, too, one of my goals when I started Shelbyville Now, going way back, was for people to find out things that changed their lives or affected their lives directly.
Right.
And most everything that we talk about here on Saturdays, and you start looking at it, it's moves or decisions or votes or direction by government that does affect the lives of citizens of Bedford County and the city of Shelbyville. So if it affects the general public, then we're going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about it. And a lot of the comments said, oh, some of this is your opinion. And I mean, we'll be honest, we give our opinion every Saturday. We give our opinion. Some of our Facebook posts have our opinion in it. And that's the great thing about living where we live in a free country. We're free to have our opinion, and other people out there are free to have the wrong opinion. That's their right. You know, we're going to give the right opinion here. If they want to have their wrong opinion, they can hang on to it out there as well. And they're all on Facebook. If they want to put the wrong opinion out on their Facebook page, they're also welcome to do that. It's a free platform.
Well, Josh,
free speech, free country.
As you say that, I'm sitting here looking at your couch. You got Donald Trump with his fist in the air when he's saying fight.
Right.
And a Burrow Bullets advertisement. So you got a Burrow Bullets cap on. Yeah. And I think that pretty much sends a signal that we are going to be conservative.
We're conservative. We're unapologetically conservative. Right. If you're looking for liberal news outlet, go watch CNN. This ain't not us. You come to the wrong place.
There's other liberal places you can go locally too. But
so debated whether or not we want to step on more toes, but let's go for it. We're in this discussion already. Let's talk a little bit more about this PAC real quick, David. This PAC came about, was started by members of the board of the Shelbyville Bedford Partnership. I mean, that's not a opinion. That's just a fact. You can look at the first donors. Right. I believe 3 of them sit on the board.
We talked about this when it came out.
We talked about this when it came out. So you've got this entity, the partnership, which is funded by taxpayer money. They're now collecting money to try to influence upcoming elections in a way where they feel like, in my opinion again, it's just mine, but they feel like, I think, that they can influence the election to such an extent that they might be able to get more taxpayer money by getting this city council shifted around. So because originally the city council gave them $100,000 a year in taxpayer money, they've withdrawn that the last 2 years. So now you've got, again, a taxpayer-funded organization that's going out there raising money to try to influence, who people, citizens.
So Bedford County, let's make it clear, Bedford County gave $100,000 to the Shelbyville Bedford Partnership, which is not money. It's not a Shelbyville Bedford Partnership now. It's a Bedford Partnership. It's a Bedford County. All right, Bedford County. Let's get that place. This is a county we're talking about. Bedford County. Yeah. I get that. We leave out our words sometimes. So
and let's real quick pet peeve. We live in Bedford County. We don't live in Bedford. There's places called Bedford.
Bedford, Pennsylvania.
There's Bedford cities all over. We live Virginia. In Bedford County. So so we'd like a better Bedford County is what we'd like. Right. So and specifically for me, because I'm running for Ward 5, I want a better Shelbyville is what I'm looking for. So nothing against the county, but I'm specifically focused on the people in my ward that I have to live with and see every day. Quick side story, just, because it's our show and we do what we want. Got a call earlier this week, actually a text from a neighbor. And he said, you need to go see Miss Lena on this street. And I had never met the lady, but he gave me an address. He said she's got some HOA issues and I've got some ins with the HOA. So I went and visited Miss Lena. She's the sweetest lady you're ever going to meet. She's a little old lady living in a house by herself. Reminded me of walking into my grandmother's house. Okay, and she's probably about the same age. Both my grandmothers have passed, but if they were still alive, sat me down on the couch. Had the Bible sitting right there, and Miss Lena, she's reading that Bible. It's not a decorative Bible. That's right. She's reading that Bible often. And she had some very specific issues with the HOA that I was able to help her with, where they had charged, too much, some late fees and stuff that were not her fault. She had all her paperwork. Right. She was in order. It was perfect. But the point of the story is Miss Lena lives there. She's by herself. She's on Social Security fixed income. And these $200 in late charges would have, wrecked her financially. And we make those kind of decisions every day at the city and the county level. When they raise, your property taxes, when they try to bring in a wheel tax, all this, it's the people like Miss Lena that live by herself on a fixed income that it hurts the most. It's not the guys living in the nice house with 50 acres and 4 cows and, 8 pickup trucks. It's the little people living, paycheck to paycheck, or in her case, Social Security check to Social Security check, that we need to be looking out for at the city and the county level. And that's, part of why I've jumped into this is because I feel like people like that often get ignored when you've got groups of people that live in big houses and have large amounts of money that try to influence, what vote goes where, and I'm not questioning the motives of the 16 people that gave this money. They probably do feel like what they think is a better Bedford is what they're trying to bring in. Again, a better Bedford County. Let's get the county in there. But my view of a better Bedford County is, not 2,500 people crammed into 120 acres on the side of Union Street, which is what a couple of these pack owners are trying to do. My view is not an asphalt plant that gets expanded so wide that you can see it from 231 on the way into town, which is what some of the people on this list are trying to do. It's not R4 zoning, that's been sitting in front of the city council for the past 3 months, bounced back and forth when the planning department has said no, twice to it, and that's the kind of things that it looks like anyways on the surface, because those are the people that are giving money to this PAC. If that's their view of a better Bedford County, that's not my view of a better Bedford County. And that's why I'm running, is because I've got my opinion, and I hope that my opinion is similar to my neighbors, and that's why I talk to my neighbors, listen to my neighbors, and that's why I want to represent them.
Yeah, so, I feel like that you and I have heard some of the same things. I get contacted by people out in the county, out in the city. There's been issues where I've had to go out and just they want some attention to their issue.
Right.
And out in the county, I ran across some people a couple of years ago that were in the same situation. And people will drive by their homes and say, well, they need to do this to their house and make it look better, do that. And they're struggling to buy groceries. They're struggling to pay their property taxes. And they might need to fix a gutter, and they might can go out and prop it up, but they're living on a fixed income. And for them, it's a choice: pay my property taxes or fix that.
Right.
And we don't need to have these people in that position. And we need to be very, very careful the way we're spending their money.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're spending other people's money, you can't have enough checks and balances to try to make sure that's going to the right place. And that's, that's all what you and I have been about the whole time that we've been on the air for the past however many months. So, and before that, when we were just running articles on Facebook and, on the website. So that's that. A lot of inside baseball there, but it was the elephant in the room. And, rather than avoid it or push it to the end of the show, we wanted to go ahead and jump in.
Well, I want to say something too. I've seen PACs in operation, and most of them, of course, are supporting specific candidates, specific tilts in thinking, either conservative or liberal.
Right.
And one of my first encounters with a PAC was in our last election, where we had a county commissioner actually got a hit piece sent out on her as she got elected. Okay, so the hit piece failed. But as I looked at that piece that was sent out, I looked at who managed it, who sent it. Then I backtracked and I looked, and it was from out of town.
Right. It
was from 30 miles north of here. Okay. And the LLC that it was under, and then the PAC that it was donated, it was from outside forces, you think, but it really came from within.
Right.
Okay. All right. So there's ways to hide that. I'd rather see PACs operate out in the open and not do hit jobs, but support candidates and just talk about what this candidate's going to do to help.
Right.
Rather than attack somebody.
Right. And again, this particular PAC that we're talking about, they've not made they've made one overt move, and I called it a couple times in the comments. They submitted an article to our local paper that ran on the front cover without attribution, saying it came from the PAC. And we covered that about a month ago or whenever it happened. If you actually dug into the meat of the article, it had several serious, in my opinion, major errors as far as the information they were putting out there. It was not just twisted, it was flat out wrong.
Right.
And we covered that at the time. And, that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get information out there. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to the people to decide who they want in those seats, and we'll respect whoever, whatever their decision is, and we'll just keep moving forward from there, and we'll cover whoever sits there. If it's me there, I'll pick on myself if I'm sitting there. If I'm not the one sitting there, we'll talk about whoever is sitting there, whatever they decide. So that's what we do, and that's what we're going to keep doing. So, and if we stepped on your toes, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe watch a different news broadcast.
Well, it's politics are dicey.
Yeah.
And thinking through this whole thing, I got to look at our entire system that we live in,
right,
from Main Street all the way up to Pennsylvania Avenue and Washington, D.C. I got to thinking, money influences people to do certain things. And I got to thinking, it's not the money to influence it. Money is the deciding factor. It's all about the money. So whoever has big bank accounts usually gets to do what they want to do, and that's just the way our system is set up.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's not what our founding fathers set up to begin with.
Right.
And me being a conservative, I always am going to lean back toward the way it was set up to originally, and I would love to see us shift that way where the biggest bank account doesn't win the game, but we all win.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to see happen at the local level, because that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's all we can affect. I mean, we're not going to influence, who gets voted in at the state or the national level. We're two guys sitting on Facebook and YouTube.
And we're not going to affect a whole lot here.
Right.
But I think if we all had the idea that let's go back to the way our founding fathers set up, and let's start doing that here at the local level, and let's not have governments donating to private organizations that are going to influence the election. We've got our county government donating $100,000 to an organization that started as a good idea, and now it's turned into a political situation to reestablish the establishment every 2 years.
Yeah.
And get a foothold a little bit more toward a certain tilt, toward a certain group of people. And it needs to be all Bedford Countyans, not just a certain group.
Absolutely.
So there's my soapbox.
Nope,
Sorry.
Appreciate it. And I think if you didn't catch it, I think we're pretty much both on the same page.
Yeah, okay,
so
all right.
We're both on the same page. So let's get into the week. Since we're already over 20 minutes, we haven't even covered our first news story. Tuesday at noon, and this is one I looked. I didn't see anybody else covering this, but boy, are we going to cover it at least for a few minutes. City Council reviewed the charter for the city of Shelbyville. This doesn't happen very often, but the charter is obviously the primary document that sets the rules for how the city operates. And the city brought in from MTAS a representative with a name that you might recognize, but it's not that one. They brought in a Pat Marsh, but not the Pat Marsh you're thinking of. So they have a new person at MTAS. His name is Patrick Marsh. And they had some interesting discussions on a couple of things that the city is looking to change in the charter. And let's start with clip one, if we can, David, and then we're going to discuss this.
Bring up and discuss. And I don't know if it needs to be a charter change or resolution, or even if the rest of the council so feels it's important. But I know for a fact that if you are a member of, if you work for the city in any way past it, you're not eligible to be a city councilman. I feel that it should be the exact same position if you work for the county and are paid by the county. A prime example of that is this lawsuit that we're in with the city over school tax money. Now, if you were an employee of the county, would you not have a conflict and have a hard time representing your city constituents? And that's, and I think that would be in others, not just that area, but a lot of areas. So if our forefathers were conscious enough to say that the city would be a conflict if you work for the city, I think we should look at the fact and discuss whether the county, working for the county, would be, should be ineligible to be a city councilman also. And I'm not up for re-election this time, so it's not bothering me one way or the other. But but it is something I think should be discussed, and I personally think it is a conflict, especially like in this tax thing right now.
Okay. Mr. William Christie. Had a
Mr.
lot to
Christie,
say.
He had a lot to say, and there was a lot more discussion than that. We just pulled obviously the one clip there, but the feeling of the current sitting city council is, as they sit in a lawsuit with the county, they don't feel like it's a good idea to bring county employees on as members of the city council. So,
Well, why would it ever be a good idea?
in general, I'm not a fan of it either, but it's not as bad of an idea as what we've often talked about, having county employees on the county
Right,
commission,
it's the same. Yeah,
where they're voting
yeah,
on their
yeah.
own pay rate and their own raises. But in this case, at the end result of this meeting was the city has gone to MTAS and they're asking for this rewrite of the charter. And they're going to present the language back to city council here fairly soon, I would imagine. And they're going to vote on a change to the charter, which would make you ineligible to sit on the city council if you're a county employee. That change will then go to the state legislature where they have to ratify it, and it would take effect July 1st, is what I was told.
Okay.
That throws a little bit of a wrench in the current election because we have at least one county employee I know of on the ballot right now. The final sentiment I got, and also was discussed later in the meeting, was if this passes and goes through as of July 1st, if that person were to win the election, they would have to make a decision of do they want to hang on to their county job or do they want to keep representing their people in the city. So if this change happens, it would throw things in the city council in a little bit of a lurch. So
the timing on this is not real good, but it's happening.
It's happening. So, and it has happened. It's already been pushed back to MTAS. They're working on the language now.
Okay.
Later in the meeting, this was just one of many things that they're talking about changing. There was a lot of discussion that didn't lead to a charter change, but the city council is currently not happy with the level of oversight they get in the hiring process of department heads. They feel like they should know. I don't know what they feel like they should know, honestly. I think they want to see like the resumes of people that put in their application for a department head, and they just want to feel like they're a little more tied in. Really, the city manager handles all hiring and firing of city employees, which is how it is in the structure of government that we have here.
That's pretty much the way it is everywhere.
That's how it is, I think, in most cities.
Yeah.
So, but for whatever reason, the council feels like maybe he's made a couple hiring decisions they don't agree with, so they want to dive in a little deeper. So the end result of that was they're not looking for a charter change on that. They're going to change some internal policies to maybe where the city manager has to share any information he gets from a applicant at the at the higher level, not just for the guy that's down there working on the trash truck, but but for a department head or something like that, they're going to share more of that with the city council. Another really extensive discussion that was had, and that is apparently also going to lead to some changes, is power board qualifications. Currently, to sit on the power board, you have to be a ratepayer, I believe is the wording, which that allows somebody that doesn't live in the city to sit on our power board, which is actually the case, I believe, with 2 sitting members. The discussion was, and it looks like the direction they're headed is, they are going to make that much like it is with other city council members. You got to live in the city to sit on that board. So in that case, the 2 sitting members that are there, they would let them serve out their terms, but they would not be eligible to come back onto the board. And I guess the reasoning being, and I don't know there's bad reasoning. I mean, if you want to sit on our city, a city power board, which has a bit of, authority, I think, that you should live in the city and not just live out in the county.
Right.
So, last big thing, which I wasn't even realize was a thing, and shout out to Council Member Henry Feldhaus, who we don't agree on all our issues, but on this one I did very much agree with him. There is currently what's called, have you heard of property rights voting?
It affects me directly.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, I own property in the city, but I live in the county. I pay city property tax.
Yep. So you can vote in the city council race if you want to.
That's what I'm understanding. Wherever my property location would be my ward.
Okay. So here's the catch with that, and the reason they're talking about removing that ability from the charter. If you had a little more money than maybe you currently have, say you own property in 2 or 3 different wards, did you realize that you could vote for more than one city council person? You do not.
You need to be able to pick one.
That should be how it is. But
and it should be your highest value. should be your highest
Currently,
value.
how it's written, and we have people that do this. We've got landowners that don't live in the city at all. They live in the county, but they own property in multiple wards.
Right.
Each election, they can fill out a new form and say, I want to vote for Ward 2. Next election, I want to vote for Ward 4. So you can bounce.
So they're going to stop that.
Because currently they could be voting twice as often as
Right.
a peon like me that just has a house here and doesn't have a bunch of property. So they're getting an outsized influence on city elections by being able to bounce around. So I think the final fix is they're just going to remove property rights voting.
So we're not going to get to do it at all.
No, you got to live in the city to vote in the city election.
But I still got to pay property taxes?
You still got to pay property
That's
taxes.
a ripoff.
That's a ripoff, yeah.
I'm paying property taxes.
You should probably have a say in it. So, but should you be able to let
No.
them have a double say?
No.
That's the
I mean,
question.
I should get one vote.
One vote, yeah. So they're
I'll
getting
argue
two
about
right
this,
now.
Josh.
That's a good argument. And actually, they had.
I
some
mean,
of
we
that
have
discussion, so-
trash pickup.
Yep.
That we have, and that's the service that we get from the city.
Right.
And of course, we have city police and,
City
and
fire.
all the city
Yep.
fire. But our money is going to pay for that, just like if I lived in the
just as if
in,
you
on the
lived in the
property.
city.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I pretty much live in the city.
Yeah, you do anyways because you probably
All
spend
right,
more hours.
so
at work than
they're
at
going to
home,
take my
so.
voting right away.
They are talking about taking your voting right away. Yes, because of the other alternative, which is where you're voting multiple times. And
Well,
possibly,
this is a fix. You can fix this.
they should fix that. Yeah, they should make you
One
declare. Yeah, one
Declare-
vote every 4 years.
declare your ward and let's
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah, like the peons do, like
Right,
me.
right.
One vote every 4 years, but it looks like they're going harsher and they're removing property rights voting completely. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll keep an eye on that because both of those items, the county employees not being on the city council and the property rights voting, will have to come back from MTAS. There'll have to be a vote at city council. It doesn't just magically happen. Even though they said they wanted it, they got to vote on it.
Yeah.
And then if they approve it, it then moves up to the state legislature at the next session where they have to ratify it. And then it would become law July 1st.
I think what they
next
ought to
year.
do in this case on the voter qualifications,
Yeah.
since we're not getting the vote, then we don't have to pay property taxes.
That would be a good one. If you could talk about your property taxes, I'd go.
Well, if
for
I'm
that.
not getting
So,
if I'm not getting a vote, I mean, a taxation without representation.
I think so. Yeah,
This goes back to the Boston Tea Party,
this does. Is there anywhere we could dump tea, like the Duck River or something? I don't know.
Flat Creek, maybe.
Flat Creek.
All right.
We don't want to kill the
Oh.
endangered something in there.
Okay.
So we'll
All
stay
right.
away from that.
Okay.
But no, this will be a good one. We'll keep an eye out on
Yeah,
it. So
we will.
yeah, we will for sure. Same day, Tuesday,
Okay.
5:00, county standing committees. And we had MTAS at noon, and now we had CTAS at 5. We had Mr. Charlie Curtis came into town from CTAS, and we had a little discussion of conflict of interest. So I think we're going to play clip 2 if you can, and we'll discuss after.
But that was before the conflict of interest laws. There's some counties now dividing the question. So somebody works on the school system can't vote for the school budget in a month. They have to abstain from voting if you're just voting on the school budget. They or their spouse is an employee of the school system. Some counties do that. Takes more time to pass the budget, but it don't hinder you from passing it because if they've got a conflict, they're not a member of the commission for that one vote. So it reduces your membership. If you had 5 commissioners couldn't vote on the school budget because them or their spouse is employed, you'd have 5 less members for that one vote.
But
That's
you could,
state
so
law.
you could divide it out though by the school board and the general
That's correct.
fund and so.
That's correct.
But if you do that, Mr. Curtis, if you take away my ability, because I work for the school system, to vote, is that not disenfranchising my constituents in their eyes?
They elected you and they knew you or your spouse was an employee. It's state law. It ain't optional. I mean, it ain't a suggestion. They say it's the real deal. But one thing changed last year. Even though it's bundled, you got a right to vote, you got to still stand up and declare you got a conflict of interest, but state law allows you to vote, you're going to vote. You still, that's the majority leader in the House. He passed that out of Sumner County.
This season.
All right, Josh. Mr. Curtis, he knows what's going on.
He knows what's going on at the state level, and that little clip was about conflict of interest, which is
That's the theme of our show,
it could be
Josh.
the theme of our show. There's a lot of conflict of interest going around, and that's part of what we've talked extensively with the number of county employees we have that sit on our county commission. They have, by definition, you got a conflict. If you're voting on something that's a department that you work for, it feels like a conflict to me. So the state has changed the law now, and even on a bundled deal like the budget at the end of the year, if they hold it together as a bundle, all of our county commissioners that work for the county and anywhere in that bundle budget is something that affects them, they've now got to stand up and say, I've got a conflict of interest. They can still vote. They can still vote, but it'll become a lot more apparent. Well, and I don't know if he's just saying, I don't know if they physically have to, and that'd be even better. I hope they physically have to
absolutely.
Stand. I think they should make them stand. But it'll become more apparent when it comes budget time now, how many conflicts we actually have sitting in the county commission, because there'll be more than one or two that have to stand up. And then the other thing he said there that I thought was important, which we've avoided, we've tried to have done, I think all of the most recent budgets, is it's really easy to divide the question on your annual budget and split up the four main budgets, the general, the debt service,
and your education out to the side.
Yeah, split those up and vote on them one by one.
It's 5, right? 5 spots.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. 4 or 5. But in that case, instead of standing up and saying, I have a conflict of interest, you can just say, I have a conflict of interest. I'm not going to vote on this school budget. Right. And then just the rest of the commissioners vote on that budget.
Right.
Which that clears up somewhat the conflict of interest.
And it changes your quorum size.
It changes your size. So we've got, 18 county commissioners.
Yeah. So if you had the 6 that were in this category, they could be,
you would just count the math on whoever's left over. So,
and this would take, 15 extra minutes?
It'll take a little extra time, but it clears things up even more. And it's a real easy mechanism to clean up some of this whole conflict that's been going on for years. I mean, the easier one would be to stop electing county employees, but that doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So the other thing would at least have more of this conflict out in the open for people to see, because this is all about transparency in government. And if you just moved here, even if you've lived here your whole life, you may not know that 3 of those people that just voted on that budget, work for the school system and are voting for their own pay rate or whatever. So this just kind of puts it more out in the open. So after Mr. Charlie Curtis, we had a lot of reports. We're not going to cover most of them. They were things, were about the same as every month and a lot of stuff. We'll point out, though, Sheriff's Department mentioned, and we reposted one of their posts. They had a large fentanyl bust this month. Part of that was made possible by the fact that they've gotten some canines recently that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
And I had received a message last month. We cover the city police. Every month they release a report.
Yeah, they got a nice little graphic.
Graphic. It's very colorful. Well, our county sheriff's office also puts out a nice little report. Not quite as colorful, but I just thought we'd cover just a couple of the numbers on that just because we don't normally do it and somebody asked us to. So in the month of July, our sheriff's department people drove 72,801 miles. So that's a lot of times you could circle the earth with that. So they're driving a lot. Issued 16 citations, served 772 warrants, and arrested.
Wait. 772?
772 warrants. They have a whole warrants division, I believe.
Man.
That's a lot. And arrested 182 people. So 300 inmates sitting in the jail as of the time the report was printed. And in the month of July, 413 were processed through the jail. So at the sheriff's department, things are busy in the sheriff's world. So they got a lot going on. They also stopped 310 people for traffic violations. What are some other big numbers? Transported 89 prisoners. They helped 59 people that had their car broke down. That was good. Had 21 assaults in the month. We had 57 auto accidents with no injury out on county roads, and we had 6 that involved injuries. 3 vehicles stolen, and 353 investigations by the investigators.
That's a lot of investigating.
A lot of investigating. So all that to say, hats off to the sheriff's department. They're doing a lot of work.
Did we have a drug task force report on that?
We did not have a drug task force report. For whatever reason, he mentioned at the meeting that they were not able to get it ready in time. They may have emailed it after the fact. The nurse actually did not follow up on that.
This has been ongoing for a while, not having the drug task force report.
It comes and goes. Yeah.
Some months it gets there late. Some months it doesn't get there. Sometimes it's on time.
Yeah.
And but this bust on the
Fentanyl, that was a big bust. And
Yeah.
that's just a sign that as I don't think anybody has surprised anybody, we still have a drug problem.
Oh,
It
we
hasn't
got
gone
a drug
away,
problem.
so.
It's not going anywhere.
hasn't gone
man.
away.
It's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
And kind of tied into this, but not really. The other thing that piqued my interest, just sitting there at a normal Tuesday evening meeting, juvenile detention was not there to give their report, but they had one of our county commissioners stand up and say, "Hey, by the way, side note, in the first 2 weeks of school, 8 Bedford County students have been arrested." So I don't know what the kids did at school that led to arrest. I mean, back when I was in school, you got paddled was about the most we ever got. So
Yeah, they call the police now.
apparently, if you're in too bad of trouble, they call the police. So
Yeah.
we've had 8 arrests in our school in 2 weeks, which is, I don't think that's the norm. That seemed unusual. I think that's why they pointed it out. So hopefully maybe
That's a lot.
That's a lot of kids. So hopefully that got the 8 bad apples out of the bunch and everybody else is good, but we'll see going forward. No, this date is wrong on my report. Thursday night, we had the City Planning Commission. They started at 5 with an hour of exciting training on traffic studies. I don't have anything to report from that other than there's a lot going on in the world of traffic studies.
Obviously.
And we need a lot of them because we're doing a lot of construction
Yeah.
in town. On the actual agenda, 2 items that we mentioned last week that I want to follow up on. There's what they call a major subdivision coming to Brown Lane, Claxton Estate. It's got 1 access road from Richdale, and then it's got 3 roads coming in off Brown Lane, 27 acres, 73 houses.
And for everybody needs to know, Brown Lane comes right out to Fairfield
Right
Pike.
out to Fairfield Pike. So
We're
really
gonna
this
have a
eventually
log
ends up
jam.
at Fairfield.
It all is going to Fairfield Pike.
All going to Fairfield Pike. Now, there were some people there from the neighborhood that were concerned. It ended up that this was just a presentation of the concept plan. They don't have a final plan ready, so there was nothing ready to vote on yet. So this will be back at some point in the future, probably not too far away, but
Yeah.
just kind of a heads up that it's coming. So yeah, keep your eyes out. And we talked about it last week as well. This property is already zoned correctly for what they're trying to build on it. So once they meet their check boxes and it's up to codes, it meets all the requirements of zoning, it's not going to get a no vote. I mean, they can't even vote no on it. They don't have the choice. It's an administrative
even though
issue.
that it could create a major traffic issue, they can still do this.
Now they are back to traffic studies because of the size of this. This is going to require traffic studies. The traffic study could put conditions on this development saying, "Hey, Mr. Developer, you got to do this, this, and this improvement on
You
the roads
got to
in the
widen
area."
Brown Lane,
That,
and you got to widen Fairfield
if
Pike.
only they could make it that much. Unfortunately, they usually only look at intersections and then.
But
the
you know
little
what?
area in
I
front of it.
think the free market takes care of a lot of this. If people do their homework and they're going to move here, they've got to take the traffic flow into consideration.
Right.
So it turns into, is this a wise move for the developer to put this and create a traffic jam? I don't know, man. Just the people itself that would be living there is going to not take the neighborhood that's already in existence there,
Right.
and just take that off the table. Just the amount that's going to be coming from this development, too, it's going to create its own traffic problem. So, am I thinking, do I want to live there and sit at the end of Brown Lane waiting to get on Fairfield Pike for however long?
You probably don't. The problem is you're going to have, half or more of these people are going to move in from California.
And they don't know the
Arizona,
difference.
and-
Yeah.
And for them, they're like,
Surprise,
this is-
surprise.
Yeah. So it's the people that have lived there the longest that are really going to feel it the most. So unfortunately, the other big item, well, I don't know how big this was, but the other item on the agenda that we talked about last week that I want to follow up on, I forgot to put the name of the street down again, but this is the 3 acres adjacent to the other PUD that was approved recently that they were trying to get upzoned to R3A.
Morton Street, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was on
Morton Street.
Yeah, Morton. And honestly, I was a little surprised. We got a unanimous vote to send an unfavorable recommendation to City Council on this.
Wow.
So the entire Planning Commission agreed this was not a good idea. So, which we talked about last week. It wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
So this would be another set of townhomes immediately below the townhomes that they've already approved, both feeding onto Morton Street at an intersection that was already problematic. So it would have been a traffic issue. It just in general, it wasn't a good idea. So, and thankfully they shut
We
it.
have some interaction from the gallery.
Okay.
Okay.
All
All right. First, we've got Joe Finch. No voting rights, no property taxes. Thank you, Joe. I'm with you.
There's one for you.
All right. Mark Rolfus says, can you discuss why the county as a whole won't team up to fix the water problems? Okay. And that's a broad topic. You
That's
could
a big one.
You could look at the War Trace Bell Buckle situation. You could look at the southwest corner of our county that has experienced problems. Well, we've had problems pretty much everywhere.
Right.
That is a good question. Why can't we team up? Well, I think, we sit here and discuss all the different issues that are going on between the city and the county. A lot of this happens in the city. And right now, the city and county can't get together to do anything. And it seems like that the county can't come together as a whole and address anything. So I don't know what the answer is to Mark's.
And we weren't planning on covering it today, but I'll talk about it real briefly. If you've at all watched the War Trace Facebook page this week, I mean, their water system is, as it has been out here for 30 years, a mess again this week. They've had almost every day, I've seen a different part of town saying, hey, your water's out. Hey, your water's out. Hey, you got low pressure. Hey, we're out there. We're on the way to fix it. We're going to fix it. Hey, we did fix it. Oh, no, we found another one. And it's like whack-a-mole out there.
Yeah. It's been like that for a long time.
It's been like that as long as people can remember. And I've not been here long enough to remember as far back as it's
we're
been,
talking about bringing huge developments into Bedford County.
Yeah.
I think we need to get our water fixed,
Yeah. And I don't know the solution. I think, in not being deep into the water systems, I think probably some level of consolidation of the systems is probably what's going to happen. The fact that we have Bell Buckle, which is really just using War Trace water, which sometimes Bell Buckle's using BCUD water.
Right.
You got all these little entities, fighting for the same, pieces of, and they've all got their individual service areas. But man, it sure seems like consolidation of some of those would help in the overall scheme of things. If you could get 2 or 3 or 4 of those little ones together into a bigger one, you would hope just by sheer scale, they could have more money they could pull together and fix the problems of the areas that have problems, because not all of those areas have as big a problem. So, and actually, I, don't want to go off into something that wasn't really meant to be an on the topic discussion, but I was at breakfast in Bell Buckle on Friday, and there was some mention that they would be willing possibly to look at taking over the War Trace water system, since they're really interconnected anyways. And it seems like from everything I've seen, the Bell Buckle people on the water side have a whole lot better handle of what's going on than the War Trace. So that might be, if they could just those two together,
team up
with with the people on Bell Buckle side kind of spearheading that, because again, they seem to have their act together a little better. That might be a start, but I think it's a bigger problem.
Shouldn't all this come under the Bedford County Utility District?
Well, that's the other question. Yeah, does the whole county just pull all those little ones in? But I know, and it was actually mentioned at one of the city meetings as just a side thing that they discussed. There's all continuing friction for whatever reason between BCUD and Shelbyville Power on different issues.
That's terrible.
And they're always have a little bit of friction back and forth. So it's, is it egos? I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of.
And one other thing before we jump ahead here and wind things down. Jeff Haynes, no tea dumped in Flat Creek, please. We need to keep our cows decaffeinated. All right, I'll go somewhere else, Jeff.
He'll have his tea party somewhere.
We'll have our tea party somewhere else. Maybe we'll go over to War Trace and do it in the Garrison Creek.
Oh, we could do that. Or don't they have? Is there the fountain? Is the fountain working over in the War Trace? Yeah, we just pour it in the fountain or something.
Yeah, that'll work.
We'll find somewhere to have the tea party. So all that to say, water's a big issue.
Yeah.
And we didn't even get into the deeper part, which is you still got TDEC out there looking at how much water all of us are pulling from the Duck River.
If they lower us,
if they
were
able to bring the hammer down on how much we're allowed to use at any given day, that could also be an issue. So all that's still looming out there while we continue to, boom, 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 pop up house after house after townhouse after house all across the county. So, and then 2 real quick things at the end of that planning meeting. They did discuss the zoning changes for the C1, which is basically the square area. They thought they were going to vote on them, and they didn't quite have those ready. So those will be back next month. And a point that I keep pushing, and this is one of my big pet peeves, we got to fix PUD and R4 standards. Our standards are too low. That's part of why we're getting the neighborhoods we're getting. And didn't get brought up again at planning this month.
But there's a special committee set together to discuss and do this.
I'm told by our planning director they're going to have that committee's going to meet again next month. So hopefully they finally
Man,
push something to
Josh.
planning, and we've met.
These guys need to be meeting every week on this.
I wish.
Or every day until
mean,
they get it hammered out.
We started talking about this with that big development back in December, and where are we sitting at here? We're at August. I mean, we're the second half of August. So this is not, at some point we got to stop delaying, deferring, pushing. We need to take action because this is one of the big issues that me, the little peon living in my house in Shelbyville, can see coming like a train down the train tracks, and we're not doing enough about it.
Right.
So, but that being said, that was all the city and county meetings I went to this week. So let's hear from our sponsor one more time, and then we'll talk about next week.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Again, we want to thank our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance here in Shelbyville. For all your insurance needs, give Dennis Young and his crew a call. I know they would appreciate it, and we appreciate them for being our sponsor and allowing us to talk about all this stuff. Josh?
All this stuff, conflicts of interest, whatever. We just go on and on. So upcoming week, we still got this little thing going on in town about horses or something. I hear they got these donuts. It's, there's a lot going on this week. So that's kind of what's really going on this week in town. There's only, believe it or not, a single meeting between city and county combined. Tuesday, we'll call this even afternoon. It's not really evening. 4:15, County Financial Management Committee is going to open with a Q&A with a representative from the State Comptroller's Office, and they're going to discuss the 81 Act and why the county does, conducts its financial business the way that it does.
Right.
Glad they're doing it. My only little bit of a side on this is we're doing it.
4:15.
Well, 4:15. That's a hard time for people to get to that meeting, anyways. And then we're doing a horse show week, and I know a lot of people that go out of town.
This is not a good time.
So this I would have probably done it next month, but it's there, it's scheduled. I'll be there, and we'll cover it for sure.
And who knows? Maybe this is the only time they could get up here.
Could be, we don't know from the comptroller's office. They may have had conflicts. So for whatever reason, it is this Tuesday, 4:15. I'll be there. We'll cover it next week because honestly, it's the only thing on the government agenda for this week.
Yep.
But as usual, something will probably come out of left field that we'll have to talk about.
Always out of left field.
So we'll be back here same time, same channel, with or without donuts, possibly. Definitely have some coffee and just come right back.
I can promise you one thing. Those donuts will be gone.
These donuts will be gone. So
see you next week.